So at that point, you get to DR. When did you start to build yourself back up to where you're at now? How did you when did that guide us through the steps of your kind of rebirth in a sense?
Well, it was a gradual pace because it's like a baby learning how to grow or baby growing. You learn how to move their legs, learn how to start walking, talking, asking for things, and then becoming independent to do it on your own. And it was a similar case with me. My family here, despite them being a system of support, but I needed more than that. I needed for them to actually take me literally and say, listen, this is what is happening. This is what it is.
Right.
And that happened because they didn't know what I had gone through on the inside. They didn't understand it. And for as much as I would explain it to them, they still didn't understand.
Right.
And it is difficult for one to explain something that others cannot see. The emotions that runs through us at a daily basis, especially, listen, the first time I came down here and I had sex for the first time after 15 years, that is an experience on its own.
Right.
Eating a home-cooked meal for the first time after 15 years, that is an experience on its own.
What was your first meal?
Wow, I can't even recall. They literally filled the table with a variety of food. Yes.
Wow.
Moro con guandule.
Wow.
Arroz habichuela con carne, pollo frito, tostones, anchoa, sancocho, everything.
Making me hungry.
It was just, I am grateful for that, in which they did, give me all of these things. Going to the beach for the first time. Wow, that was an experience. I'm like, wow, water, endless amount of water. When you're in the cell, you only have, you push this button, you get, a little flow of water at a time.
Right.
And wow, it was just a whole new experience, a whole new life.
From the details that you share with me off camera, you ended up becoming a professor. How did that work out? How did you get to that point in your life?
Well, that actually happened without my even, I could say, looking for it. One of my cousins, he had got me a job helping a driver out, distributing Gatorade at the time. Gatorade was kind of new in the country. And since the driver knew, everywhere, I would be his helper. And I got really tired of that. I said, this is not for me.
Right.
So after I spoke with him, my cousin, and a few other, listen, why don't you go to teaching? There's a big institute called the Boston Institute here. It doesn't exist anymore, but back then it said, go in as a teacher, because since you know English, you could teach English. And I said, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I go in, I apply with the Boston Institute. Great. I learned there that I knew nothing of English. I knew how to speak it, but I knew nothing of English.
Right.
And I continued teaching and learning as I went along, because one of the things that I learned back in prison was the fact that in order to apply what you learn, you have to do your homework. You have to learn from it. And that's how you're going to be able to be good at it. Because I do have to say that while I was in prison, I earned a paralegal degree, and I did earn a bachelor's degree in science with a concentration in psychology.
Nice.
So, I had already come out of prison with my degree.
Right.
Into teaching, and it was something that I really did like. I went into it, I liked it, and I've continued on. From then on, I worked at certain institutions, English teaching institutions, that is, and I applied in a few universities. I got in. Well, one of the T-shirts and one of the pictures I sent you has PUCMM, which is, PCUMM, which is the most prestigious university right now in the Dominican Republic.
Really?
Which stands for Pontificia Universidad Católica Madre Maestra, which is, we know as Pucamaima. And that is the most prestigious. The other university that I was there for over 8 years was a PEC university.
Right.
And these are two, well-known institutions in the country. And they're amongst the most prestigious in the country as well. And I worked there very gratifyingly. And after this pandemic, if everything's go back to normal, I do expect to be called back, because we were all summarily let go, except a few teachers that they needed.
Right. Oh wow!
And that's how I got my feet wet into being a university professor.
Man, so what other jobs did you have outside of that? It was funny. So when I found out you had gotten out of prison, first I was just like, oh yeah, that's right. He was in prison, because you were just gone. It's unfortunate that, it's when you go to prison for that amount of time, you're kind of forgotten about a little bit, or, like you're there, but you're kind of like in a stasis. You always seem to like really excel and persevere, and you always had something going on. And I just, it's awesome that, you may not, think that you made it out maybe financially, but I would say spiritually and mentally and even physically, you made it. Prison didn't break you. Life didn't break you, and so, you made it through all that. And it takes a certain type of human being, because I don't, whether you put a gender on it is whatever, but I think it takes a certain type of human being to kind of go through all those things, and to be able to make it, and to be, a person of sound thought and mind, and to, it's just, and the way you help your family over there, the way, you're always available for counsel. I think that's amazing, and you definitely deserve all the flowers that you can get. And what you have is probably, you can't put a price on that. Monetarily, there's nothing, there are people with millions more than both of us. They would pay for the type of mentality that you have, you know what I mean? Because it just, that comes from just being strong in thought, and just, I'm pretty sure there were times where you was like, listen, I just want to clock out, but you didn't. You're here. So, I always say that people go through things, and it may not be, it may suck for them, but in the grand scheme of life, it's to show other people, okay, like this person went through this.
Yeah.
And Jay-Z says it, I went through this so you wouldn't have to go through it.
Exactly.
So you definitely, I don't know if everybody kind of
you hit it right on the head, because you're absolutely right, and I thank you for that. What I've also learned is how you handle the situation. Because if you're going through some hardship, the end result would depend on how you not only see it, but how you work towards remedying that. If you take a nonchalant attitude, which you don't care, then you cannot expect it to be a good outcome.
Right.
But if you work towards improving it and making that better, then, you would definitely get the results you want, or even better result than you expect.
Right.
So it's also on how you handle it. I never thought that I would actually quit. even though I tried twice, but I never thought that I would get that far. But there was always something there, and I can't put my finger on it just yet as to what motivated me or what kept me going. Because I met guys, especially some homeboys from around the way, who these guys in the streets, you know, I was a young kid and these guys were rough guys, you know what I'm saying? They didn't give a fuck. They were on the up and up. They were killers, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they would do all these shit. And I met some of them inside and they completely lost it. They lost their sanity. Some of them lost even their manhood inside. And I saw this and I'm like, wow, you know, but dude, you used to do this, and that. You didn't give a fuck about beating down anybody, but here you are, you know, with another man on your back. Like, what's up? You know, so those are things that I saw, and others who were like straight up punks, you know. And I always said one thing: if you walk your walk and you talk your talk, you have to do that wherever you go.
Right.
You don't just do it in one place and don't do it in another.
Right.
If you're a gangster out there, you got to be a gangster in here. This is where you really got to show you're a gangster, you know? So that's one of the things I learned. And I believe that that's maybe one of the things that helped me get through. It wasn't to show anybody anything, but it was more to show myself that I can do it. Mm-hmm. I always, even before I went to prison, I always wanted to finish my study. I wanted to get my GED because I wanted to impress, for example, my sister Marixa, my siblings. I wanted to impress them, right. My family. I wanted to show them, hey, listen, I can do it. Mm-hmm. But it didn't work out that way. I'll share this anecdote with you. When I got my GED, I had gone to this program back in New York before I even went to prison, before I even during the time I was doing my shit. Mm-hmm. I had gone to Miami. From Miami, I got into some shit over there with some Cubans. My father sent me down here to Santo Domingo. I did some shit here in Santo Domingo and I went back to the States. So when I went back, Marissa says to me, listen, why don't you go get your GED? I said, that's an idea. And this was back in early 1982, I believe it was. So I said, okay, cool. You know, this might be the point where I can go back and get on the right track. So I get into this program, I meet some guys, you know, everything's cool. So my life is starting to change for the better. So I go ahead and I do this program, I graduate, I get my GED, and I go home and I tell Marissa, I said, Marissa, look, I got my GED, and I'm showing her my GED diploma. Yeah, now I want to go and I want to show Theo, because I was proud of my achievement. You know, first thing I achieve on my own that's positive, that's good. Right. And Marissa turns around and she says to me, Theo doesn't want to see that. Why does he want to see it? Okay, you did it, now go on to the next thing. And the attitude when she said it to me, you know, here goes all my pride, all my hard work, everything that I was doing, you know, for myself, for my betterment. She like kicked it to the curb like it was nothing. I'm like, damn, you know, this is what it is. Yeah. You know, so I achieved that for nothing, really, because, you know.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would disagree with that wholeheartedly. You achieved that for you.
Yeah, but you know, at that time.
That's how you felt.
Look, every young person, when they first started to achieve things, they look for that support, you know, to be celebrated, not by themselves, but also from those around them. Okay. I looked up to my sister, so I was expecting for my sister to be equally as proud of me, if not prouder.
Right, right.
And that was not
Yeah.
not the feedback I got. That was not what I got.
Yeah.
It was,
I would tell you though, David, that it's not for nothing, because you wouldn't have been able to enter the doors that you were able to enter without that GED. And sometimes,
true.
yes, I agree.
And I recognize that.
Sometimes we all tend to look for the approval of others. The podcast, for instance, I was like thinking, you know what? Do I want to do this? Am I gonna fail? And it was never about anyone else but myself. It was like,
Exactly.
what? The person I'm looking at in the mirror is the person I gotta impress the most. And it's also the hardest person. Because I'm so self-critical. I can take someone else saying something nice to me, but it's so hard for myself to say something nice. Like, and I'll just I'm looking at it, I'm just like, this is whack. And other people are like, no, what are you talking about? This is great. And I'm like, no. And so
not the same way.
and listen, sometimes I think at that time, and it sucks that you probably felt that way as a young.
With me, what happened was that since my childhood, I never had gotten any kind of positive feedback from my siblings and my parents. So being a sick kid, always in a hospital and stuff like that, I never heard it because I was never able to accomplish the little things in life. Right. You got to walk, they will clap you. Oh, you got to talk, they will clap you. These weren't things that I saw or that came towards my way. So that's come at that point when I earned my GED, I was very sensitive to that. But of course, later on, I said, to hell with that. When I became the man of steel, I'm talking about emotionally, I said, to hell with that. I don't give a fuck what you feel.
Right.
Well, you feel that? That's on you. So things gradually changed, and it was all for a reason.
Right.
I wanted my sister's approval. I wanted her to clap and cheer for me.
Right.
Because I was looking for that. I needed that. And I think that would have been a pivotal point in my life for me to continue on through the right path.
Right.
But what it did, it took me to another path because I said, oh, this isn't good enough for anybody. And that's when I said, fuck everybody. And that's when I started saying, I got to do me.
Right.
And that's what I did. Yeah, I would help my sister, anything that she needed, I was there.
Right.
I was there. Anything she needed, whatever it is she needed a gun, she needed $100,000, she needed somebody's head, she had it. I didn't care. Because I was like that. Right. But that was me. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that me is me and nobody else is me.
Right. Very true. Very true.
So from then on, I just had to go about it my way. Whether it was right or wrong to anybody else, I didn't care.
Right. Well, you seem to be on the path of positivity, and from the pictures that you've shown me, I can tell that you've impacted a lot of different lives. And maybe that was just the path that you took that led you to this point. Maybe that was the plan all along, not for you per se, but sometimes that's just the way, the destiny or whatever, whatever the case may be. Because if you don't end up here at this point of your life now, think of all those people that you've helped to graduate or to reach the next level or to learn English, as you told me, where you taught future MLB players to talk English in the Dominican Republic. Like all these things that you were present for being there, those things don't happen if you're still here. You might have you might have been in a grave. You might have been, on a t-shirt. You might have been, or you might have just, you might have been just whatever, you know what I'm saying? And the impact,
And one of the things that I started doing while I was in the inside and I was studying, I did become involved with a number of different programs. AVP, the Alternative to Violence Project. I was one of the first guys to help out translating the material to Spanish to take it to the Spanish community.
Wow.
Not only inside of prison, but also outside of prison.
Right.
I also developed my own programs with the help of the Hispanic organizations in the inside to help the Latino community. Because I made it my mission to help others as well.
That's awesome.
And there have been others as well who have contacted me and students in the university who have said, wow, you have helped me immensely.
I bet they have.
Not that I'm giving a pat on the back, I'm giving myself a pat on the back, but
you should. You should.
It to me, it's gratifying to be able to see other people stand up and become productive people in society.
Definitely. You should give yourself a pat on the back, man. This show is about giving people like you their roses because, you know, you've helped so many people, you know, and without you, you know, people wouldn't have been able to do it or would have had a harder time figuring out what they wanted to do. It's been an awesome time talking to you. This has been awesome. You know, it's funny because, you know, I never got the full that there were like whispers about you, but I never got like the full, like these stories were amazing. And it's just, you know, it gives insight to who you were, where you've been and who you are now. And I appreciate you sharing your time. And this has been just another podcast with David Garcia. Professor David Garcia. I have been Just Heck, and we are out of here. Take care.